Hi, everybody. Now we are going to talk about the converse of the Pythagorean theorem. So we're still in Unit 2, and we're chugging along. We're doing a great job. So remember, the Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared for right triangles only. I'll let you read the cartoon. Hypotenuse is a crazy word. Okay, so remember, if you have a right triangle, then you know a squared plus b squared equals c squared. The converse of this then is if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then it's a right triangle. RT triangle, like the sloppiest triangle ever. So if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then we know it's a right triangle. So if I give you a problem like this, we have the following side lengths, 9, 40, and 41, and I want to see if it's a right triangle. All we're going to do here is we're going to assume that this longest one is our hypotenuse. Remember, the longest side is the hypotenuse. It's always going to be opposite the right angle. So we're going to see if 9 squared plus 40 squared, we're going to see if that equals 41 squared. Pause the video and let's see what you get. And hopefully you got that it is right. Woohoo! Because a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So we know that it is going to be a right triangle. That's what the converse of the Pythagorean theorem teaches us. So what if I gave you something that looks like this? So now again, we're going to assume that this is our c, our longest side. So we're going to do 6 squared plus 7 squared, and we're going to compare that to 8 squared. Pause the video and then come back and let's see what you get. Okay, we're back. So hopefully you got something like this. You figured out that on the left-hand side, my a squared plus b squared was greater than my c squared. So what that means is that my hypotenuse, this side, is smaller squared than the squares and the sums of the two other sides. So this is what we call an acute triangle. And let's picture what that means here. So an acute triangle, so here's my right triangle, right? A squared plus b squared equals c squared. But in an acute triangle, my c is much shorter. So my c is like this. So if in order to have my A and my B meet that C, look what happens to this angle. Do you see how before it was right? And then we had to kind of scooch it like this in order to have that smaller C squared be taken into account. So this is what winds up giving us an acute triangle. In an acute triangle, all three angles are going to be less than 90 degrees in an acute triangle. So now let's try this one. So again, we're going to assume maybe that this is our hypotenuse. So let's do 7 squared plus 8 squared, and we're going to compare that to 11 squared. Pause the video, try it, and let's see what you get. All right, we're back. So hopefully you got this. So you got that now my c squared was greater than my a squared plus b squared. And in this situation, this is what we call an obtuse triangle. So again, let's look at what that obtuse triangle looks like. So here's my right triangle. A squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, and I've got my little right angle here. But in an obtuse triangle, we just saw that our c squared is greater. It's longer than those two sides. So look what happens in order to make this triangle, and here's my little b, look what happens to this angle. See how that angle gets larger? An obtuse triangle is a triangle with one angle that is greater than 90 degrees. So that's an obtuse triangle, and it has to be one, right? It can't be more, because remember the sum of the angles in a triangle is 180. So to recap here, if I have a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, then I know that I've got a right triangle. So this guy is going to be a right triangle. If a squared plus b squared is greater than c squared, which means that my c squared is less than those other ones, it's smaller, this is going to be an acute triangle. And my last one, if a squared plus b squared is less than c squared, meaning c squared is greater than those two sides, then we know that this is going to be obtuse. All right, go tackle the homework, and I will see you guys soon. Thanks.